Now that we talked a little bit about a couple things, let's actually go back into our project, our Hello World project, and let's make some changes there. Haven't really showed you a whole lot yet, I know, so we're moving in the right direction. So open recents, Hello World, and here we have the Hello World right where I left it. So we can see the view controller. If you remember, this did not appear in the center of my simulation. It was kind of cut off a bit, so I'm going to move it over a little bit. I'm not going to check right now to see if it's perfect, but we'll try it in a few minutes to see what happens. Keep in mind you have these little options up here that you can use to hide or show more or less of the interface. The important thing right now that I actually want to open is this middle button here. That will show me both my console, that will show me both the storyboard and my code. I'm going to go ahead and hide that bottom part. There we go. So I think I also want to make this just a little bit smaller on the left side. That looks decent to me, kind of iPhone-ish, even though I know there's more over here. That also gives me a good amount of code that I can see at this size. So we've got the print line in here. Let's talk a little bit about what are we actually looking at. So up here, obviously, these are all comments. They don't do anything. They're just for the developers, the people working with the code. So you can leave messages to yourself here or to someone that you're working with. Now this little chunk here, the import UI kit, you're not going to really mess with it, but it needs to be there. It's important. It helps load some code in there for you that helps it make sure that it knows how to create different elements and how those elements are going to behave on the device. Class view controller, that is essentially this. That's controlling, that's telling the device what to load, what to show the user. And we're not going to play with this down here right now, but receive memory warning, I'm sure you can make some guesses. This is what I want to talk about next. Override function view did load. So we see it's a function, we can see the curly braces, so obviously functions use curly braces in Swift. A view did load is something that already exists, something that's reserved for Xcode, and what it essentially is when the view, when what the user sees loads, it's going to run whatever is inside of here, which is why I put the print line in here, because I knew that that print line would load as soon as the view loaded. So as soon as I knew it was ready because something loaded, I knew that that should be down here in the outputs, which we can't see right now because I haven't run the simulator. That's great that that's in the output, except the user can't see it, right? So how can we actually make something that the user can see? I mean, obviously we have the hello world here, but there's no real connection. So it's really not that hard. So what we can do is we can take this text, and if we hold Control on our keyboard, we can drag it over. If we don't hold Control, it thinks we just want to move it. But if we hold Control, it knows we're doing something special, and it knows that we want to make a connection with something. So we're going to make a connection to our code, and we're going to put it right above the override. This is creating an outlet to the code, and we can give it a name. The name should be something that makes sense, and it should be in camel case. So I'm going to call this intro greeting. So camel case, first letter is lowercase, any additional word has a capital. And we're just going to say connect. Alright, so a couple things. Don't worry about this down here, don't worry about this down here, don't worry about that. But notice in the middle, var intro greeting. So it has created a variable and it has given it the name intro greeting. So the next thing is I want it to actually do something. Ideally it would be interactive. The user would do something and then it would do something. But for right now, just to keep it simple, I'm just going to add a new command underneath the print line, and I'm going to make it intro greeting, and that is the variable up here. That is the name for this. And you can see that it knows, or it's guessing that that's probably what I want to use. And I'm going to say that I want it to be .text, so it knows that I want the text of this intro greeting, and I want it to equal something new, so it's going to change. And maybe instead of hello world, maybe it's going to say hello user. And so let's see what happens. Alright, we can see the name of the application and my copyright down there, and we can see that it says hello user instead of hello world, so it worked. As soon as it loaded, the greeting of hello world changed to hello user. Now, not very impressive yet, but that starts to give you some ideas. You know, if you add some buttons into here or some sort of other content, maybe you could make it so that when they click on something, maybe your text changes. Granted, I haven't shown you how to do that yet, but hopefully you're starting to get ideas.